Hello everyone, welcome to session 1. In this session, I am going to discussing about plant kingdom, chapter number 3, plant kingdom. Yes, dear students, we know about biological classification. In that chapter, we had studied about 5 kingdoms of classification, that is called kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista, kingdom Mycota, kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. Yeah, see, we know about kingdom Plantae. So in this chapter, mainly we are going to study about further classification of kingdom Plantae, the kingdom Plantae popularly known as plant kingdom. Plant kingdom, yes. So there are classification in plant kingdom. The further classification in plant kingdom, we will study about algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. So this is all further classification of plant kingdom: algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. Okay, before studying about this classification, we should know about classification system. Yes, this classification system is the main purpose to establish relationship among organisms. Relationships among organisms. So there are 3 systems of classification: artificial system of classification, natural system of classification and phylogenetic system of classification. Number 1, artificial system of classification. Artificial system of classification. Yes, the artificial system of classification was given by Linnaeus, Carolus Linnaeus. So artificial system of classification is the earliest system of classification. Here used only grass superficial morphological characters. Superficial morphological characters. Morphological characters like habit and leaves and color and shape of leaves, and also use some vegetative characters and or androecium structure. Vegetative characters and androecium structure. So this is all about artificial system of classification. So this was given by Carolus Linnaeus, and here it is the earliest system of classification, used only grass superficial morphological characters like habit, color and number and shape of leaves, and also some vegetative characters or androecium structure. The second one is natural system of classification. Natural system of classification. Yes, this natural system of classification was given by Bentham and Hooker. The natural system of classification is mainly based on natural affinities among various organisms. Natural affinities among various organisms, and they include both external, which means outside, and internal, which means inside. Both external and internal features like ultrastructure, anatomy, embryology and phytochemistry. Chemistry. Okay, yes, the natural system of classification was given by Bentham and Hooker, and this system is based on natural affinities among organisms, and they include both external and internal features like anatomy, ultrastructure, embryology, and phytochemistry. The last one classification is phylogenetic system of classification. Phylogenetic system of classification was given by Engler and Frankel. Engler and Frankel. The phylogenetic system of classification is mainly based on evolutionary relationship between various organisms that is acceptable. Okay, evolutionary relationship between various organisms, and it is acceptable, and they assume that organisms are belonging to same taxa and having a common ancestor. But now the scientists used information from other sources to resolve the difficulties in classification. That is called numerical taxonomy. And cytotaxonomy and chemotaxonomy. Yes, what is numerical taxonomy? See, numerical taxonomy which is carried out by computers. The numerical taxonomy which is carried out by computers is based on easily observable characters, and the numbers and codes assigned to characters, and the data are then processed. This is called numerical taxonomy. And cytotaxonomy. See, cyto means here used cytological characters like chromosomal number, and structure and behavior. So these are all comes under cytotaxonomy. Yes, chemotaxonomy, which means use the chemical constituents in plants to resolve confusion. And nowadays the taxonomists also used this chemotaxonomy. Dear students, I already said about plant kingdom classification, that is called algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, and angiosperms. Okay, the first one is algae. Yes, algae. See, algae, study of algae is called phycology. Okay, algae is chlorophyllous, which means presence of chlorophyll pigment, and simple thalide. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಆಲ್ಗೆ ಬಾಡಿಗೆ ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಥಾಲಾಯ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಓಕೆ, ನಾವು ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಬಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಕರೆಯೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಿಯರ್ ದ ಆಲ್ಗಲ್ ಬಾಡಿಗೆ ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಥಾಲಾಯ್ಡ್ ಅಥವಾ ಥಾಲಾಯ್ಡ್ ಅಥವಾ ಥಾಲಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ದ ಆಲ್ಗೆ ಇಸ್ chlorophyllous, simple, thalide, and autotrophic. See, autotrophic, which means the algae can synthesize their food by utilizing sunlight. Okay, yes, the algae is chlorophyllous, simple, thalide, and largely aquatic, which means it is both fresh and marine organisms. The algae also occur in various habitats like moist stones. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ತೇವಾಂಶ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಕಲ್ಲುಗಳ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಬಂಡೆಗಳ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ನೀರಿನ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಲ್ಗೆಗಳು ಬೆಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಸಾಯಿಲ್, ಮಾಯಿಸ್ಟ್ ಸಾಯಿಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಹುಡ್, ಓಕೆ, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ತೇವಾಂಶ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಮರದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಈ ಆಲ್ಗೆಗಳು ಬೆಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಅಂಡ್ ಸಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದೆಮ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ವಿತ್ ಫಂಗೈ, that is called lichens, and also some in animals. Example on sloth bear. Yes, these are all habitat of algae. And some algae are unicellular, multicellular, and some are colonial form. Colonial form means the algal cells are similar in size and shapes. Example, Ulothrix, and some are filamentous form, Example, Spirogyra. Okay, yes. Reproduction in algae. Yes, reproduction in algae takes place by vegetatively, asexually, and sexually. Both methods, vegetatively and asexual and sexual method. Okay, the algae shows both reproduction method, vegetative reproduction method, asexual reproduction method, and sexual reproduction method. Okay, yes, the algae vegetatively reproduction takes place by fragmentation. You know what is fragmentation? Fragmentation means the process of breaking. For example, this is just consider this is the algae. ಇದೇನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಫ್ರಾಗ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಬ್ರೇಕಿಂಗ್. ಈ ಬ್ರೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಆದಂಥ ಫ್ರಾಗ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಇಸ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಡ್ ಇಂಟು ನ್ಯೂ ಥಾಲಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಫ್ರಾಗ್ಮೆಂಟೇಷನ್. ಓಕೆ, ಎಸ್. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್, asexual reproduction in algae. Asexual reproduction in algae takes place by production of zoospores. And sexual reproduction in algae takes place by fusion of two gametes. Yes, the sexual reproduction in algae takes place by fusion of two gametes. So these gametes may be similar in size, is called isogametes. If the gametes are similar in size is called isogamous. Okay, gametes ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ similar in size, and if the gametes have flagella, this is called flagellated. Example for flagellated gametes you can observe in Ulothrix. This alga produce isogamous flagellated gametes. Non-flagellated gametes you can observe in Spirogyra. Okay, anisogamous. Yes, anisogamous is also a type of sexual reproduction, but in this process dissimilar size of gametes are fused. Anisogamous, which means dissimilar size of gametes. Okay, that is called anisogamous. Example, Eudorhina. And oogamous. Yes, what is oogamous? Which means fusion of large non-motile female gamete with small motile male gamete. Yes, what is oogamous? Which means fusion of large non-motile female gamete with small motile male gamete. So this is called oogamous. Example, fucus and volvox. Yes, dear students, welcome to session second. In last session, we had discussed about basic characteristics of algae. Okay, in this session, we are going to discussing about economic importance or beneficial aspects of algae or importance of algae. Importance of algae. Yes. Almost all carbon dioxide fixation on Earth is carried out by algae by the process of photosynthesis. Yes, carbon dioxide fixation on Earth is carried out by algae by the process of photosynthesis. By the process of photosynthesis. Yes, this is number one. And by the process of photosynthesis, the algae increases the levels of dissolved oxygen in water. Levels of dissolved oxygen in water. And algae is the primary producer in aquatic habitat. Algae is the primary producers in aquatic habitat. And some algae used as food source. Example, laminaria and sargassum. ಈ ವಿಯೆಟ್ನಾಂ ಅಥವಾ ಈ ಮಲೇಷಿಯಾ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಈ ವಿಯೆಟ್ನಾಂ ಅಂಥ ಪ್ಲೇಸಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಲ್ಯಾಮಿನೇರಿಯಾ ಸರ್ಗ್ಯಾಸಮ್ನ ಫುಡ್ ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. And some certain marine alga like brown alga and red alga used to production of hydrocolloids. Yes, the brown alga and red alga. Example for brown alga, algin. Example for red alga, carrageen. So use it to production of large amount of hydrocolloids. Hydrocolloids means water holding substance. And number 6, some algae used for commercial purpose. Example, gelidium and gracilaria. See, this gelidium and gracilaria used to production of agar. So this agar used to grow microbes in laboratories and prepare some ice creams and jellies. And some unicellular alga, protein rich alga, that is called chlorella. Chlorella is a unicellular alga rich in protein. Food supplements, used as food supplements in space travels. Used as food supplements is used in space and space travelers. Next, the alga is classified into mainly three classes. Number one is chlorophyceae, phaeophyceae and rhodophyceae. So these are all classes of alga. The alga are divided into mainly three classes. One is chlorophyceae, phaeophyceae and rhodophyceae. Yes, the first one is chlorophyceae. Chlorophyceae commonly called as green alga. Here the plant body, which means the thallus is unicellular, or the plant body is unicellular, and colonial or filamentous and the algal cells shows rigid cell wall because of presence of cellulose in inner layer and pectose in outer layer, and these chlorophycean members of algae generally grass green in color because of presence of the pigment chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B, and these members of and the chlorophycean members of algae shows different shape of chloroplast like discoid, reticulate, ribbon shaped, cup shaped and plate shaped chloroplast. So different types of species in chlorophyceae shows different types of chloroplast, and in between the chloroplast presence of a spherical protein bodies that is called pyrenoids. So what is pyrenoids? Pyrenoids are protein bodies. Okay. Reproduction in chlorophyceae vegetatively takes place by fragmentation and the production of different spores. Vegetatively by fragmentation and production of different types of spores. And asexual reproduction in chlorophyceae. Asexual reproduction in chlorophyceae takes place by production of zoospores. Yes. Asexual reproduction in chlorophyceae takes place by production of zoospores in zoosporangia. And the sexual reproduction in chlorophyceae takes place by both isogamous and anisogamous and oogamous type. Okay. Example for chlorophyceae members alga: Eulothrix, Volvox, Chlamydomonas, Cara and Fucus. So these are all example for chlorophycean members alga: Eulothrix, Volvox, Chlamydomonas, Cara and Fucus. So these are all about chlorophyceae. The next one is Phaeophyceae. Phaeophyceae, commonly called as brown alga, Here, the plant body is, which means the thallus is simple, branched and filamentous. Simple, branched and filamentous. Okay. They possess chlorophyll A, chlorophyll C and xanthophyll and carotenoids and fucoxanthin. So these are all the pigments present in brown alga: chlorophyll A, chlorophyll C, xanthophyll, carotenoids and fucoxanthin. And the reserve food material is laminarian or mannitol. So these are all the reserve food material in brown alga. And the plant body is differentiated into, yes, the plant body is differentiated into hold fast and stipe and leaf-like frond. Leaf-like frond. And see, how ತರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, I will draw the diagram. So this is called holdfast, which helps to fix the substratum. Substratum means supporting object, and presence of a stalk-like structure, that is called stipe, and this is called frond. A leaf-like structure, this is called frond. This is the photosynthetic organ. Photosynthetic organ. Photosynthetic organ. Okay. Reproduction in Phyophyceae is takes place by both vegetatively, asexually and sexual method. Vegetatively takes place by fragmentation method, and asexually takes place by biflagellated zoospores. Yes, asexually takes place by biflagellated, which means presence of two flagella, biflagellated zoospores. Like this. Okay, the asexual reproduction takes place by biflagellated zoospores, and the sexual reproduction takes place by both isogamous, anisogamous and hogamous type. Example for Phyophyceae: laminaria, sargassum, ectocarpus, and dictyota, and fucus. These are all examples for Phyophycean alga: laminaria, sargassum, ectocarpus, dictyota, fucus. So this is all about Phyophyceae. The last class is Rhodophyceae. Yes, Rhodophyceae. Rhodophyceae is commonly called as red alga. Because of the presence of the pigment phycoerythrin. And the plant body is multicellular in nature, which means the thallus is multicellular in nature. This Rhodophyceae members alga shows marine habitat. And here the reserve food material is Floridian starch. This Floridian starch. This Floridian starch resembles like the structure of amylopectin and glycogen structure. And the reproduction in Rhodophyceae takes place by both vegetative, asexual and sexual method. Yes, vegetative reproduction in Rhodophyceae takes place by fragmentation. And asexual reproduction takes place by non-motile spores. And sexual reproduction takes place by non-motile gametes. Yes, sexual reproduction takes place by non-motile gametes. That is called hogamous type. Yes, examples for Rhodophyceae alga: Polysyphonia and Porphyra Porphyra, and Gelidium, and yes, Gelidium and Gracilaria, These are all examples for rhodophycean alga: Phyllosiphonia, Porphyra, Gelidium and Gracilaria. So these are all about rhodophyceae. Okay, so rhodophyceae commonly called as red alga, because of presence of the pigment that is called phycoerythrin. The rhodophyceae algal member shows marine habitat, and the thallus shows multicellular in nature, and the presence of the reserve food material that is called Floridian starch, and the reproduction vegetatively by fragmentation, asexually takes place by non-motile spores, and sexually takes place by non-motile gametes, oogamous type. Examples for rhodophyceae: Phyllosiphonia, Porphyra, Gracilaria, Gelidium. Dear students, in this session we had discussed about plant kingdom introduction and their further classification types and system of classification system, artificial system of classification, natural system of classification, and phylogenetic system of classification. And the first one, the further classification plant kingdom, first one, algae, their basic characters and their reproduction, vegetative, asexual and sexual method. Economic importance of algae, and the algae classification mainly three classes, that is called chlorophyceae, phaeophyceae and rhodophyceae. In the next session we are going to studying about bryophytes. Thank you.